Good evening. Welcome to the Community Development and Urban Planning Committee meeting. I am Maria Cabrera, Council Member at Large, the Chair. At this time, I would like to take roll call of the committee members. Council Member Darby.
Present.
Council Member Field.
Present.
Council Member Hackett.
Here.
Council Member Yolanda McCoy. See, she's present.
Here.
Thank you. Council Member Owens.
Here.
Council Member Christian Willauer.
Here.
President Ernest Trippy Congo.
Here.
Present. Those are the members of the committee. At this point, any other council members present, you may introduce yourself, starting with the ones in chamber.
Councilwoman Xanthia Alva, 3rd District.
Thank you. Council Member Spadola
Present, thank you.
and Council Member Bracy. Are there any other council members?
Present, thank you.
Thank you. Are any other council members present that I did not acknowledge? Okay, not seeing any. As a friendly reminder, only the members of the committee should be making motions and second. We will proceed with the agenda, and we have some resolutions. Only the members of the committee should be voting as well. Any questions will be asked by the members of the committee, then other council members, and then we will open it up to the public. First item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing the mayor to file a second substantial amendment to the city fiscal year 2025, federal fiscal year 2024 annual action plan with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. I'm the sponsor. And who do we have here from the administration to speak to this? Thank you. We have the Mr.
Madam Chair, I have a handout.
Yes, if you please. Our Real Estate and Housing Director will be speaking to this.
Good evening, Madam Chair,
You may proceed.
members of City Council, present and on virtual. I'm here to speak about the resolution authorizing the mayor to file a second substantial amendment, and that would be for the fiscal year 2025 and the federal fiscal year 2024. This resolution is a second amendment to the city's annual action plan. The amendment would provide an additional $350,000 of federal funds to the Wilmington First Start Home Buyers Program. This additional funding is proposed to assist a minimum of 20 home buyers. The First Start Home Buyer Program, it's in its second year. The first amendment that was done in the FY 23-24 year provided an additional $300,000. To date, approximately 45 home buyers have been assisted with federal funds and 20 have been assisted with general funds. This additional $350,000 will be added to the FY 2025 activities list, and it's being made available because of funding that has not been spent. So we're trying to be as prudent as possible. If it's not being spent, we're going to move it into in line that's being spent. This would basically serve home buyers that meet the federal income requirements at 80% of the area median income. They can qualify for up to $15,000 of down payment and closing costs, and based on the income and debt, may receive an additional up to $25,000 to ensure their mortgage loan is affordable. The program started in 12-23, and as of today, in general fund, there has been approximately $244,000 expended, and that has helped, once again, I've mentioned it earlier, the 20 home buyers. The federal CDBG funds, we have spent $625,000, and that's assisted 45 home buyers. Right now, our available balance in the general fund is $78,000, and we have $84,000 in our CDBG account, and that's where the $350,000 would go. Just to share with the committee that today we had four settlements scheduled, and 3 actually closed. So that was a very successful day for this program.
Awesome. Great. I do want to mention real quickly that that it was council member, the late, great Linda Gray, who pushed forward that we start with the down payment assistance program that I remember the city was a part of when I first bought my first home. So this is certainly turning a lot of residents and renters into homeowners, and we want to see more of that in the city. So I'm glad that we're filing for this additional funds, and we're being prudent with the money. At this time, I do open it up to members of City Council from the committee if you have any questions that we could ask of the Director. Dwyer. Are there any questions? Councilmember Willauer, proceed.
Thank you very much, Director Weir. It sounds like a really amazing impact from this program, and I was just wondering if it might be possible to provide just for the different councilmanic districts, the breakdown of home buyers in
Sure.
the different districts to council.
Sure.
But thank you for putting together and implementing this very successful program.
Any other council members? Councilmember Owens?
Yeah, just point of clarity. Where's the money, the $350,000? What fund is that coming from again?
From CDBG funds.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any council members that are not on the committee that might have any questions or comments? Okay, not seeing any. Oh, Councilmember Oliver.
I was just wanting to give kudos to Director Weir for always having his paperwork and always answering the questions pretty clearly. I know whenever I call or email, you do. Thanks a lot.
Very welcome.
Thank you. I want to recognize that Councilmember Harley has joined us. Councilmember Owens.
Yes, just one more thing about this. So I remember when Councilwoman Gray brought this forth, and I was a huge supporter of it. With this additional money going in there, do you already have people in mind who you want to work with, or can we start pushing it out to citizens again that we have more funds going into that?
Well, we have a regular outreach to mortgage and the mortgage brokers and the real estate agents as far as when we talk about marketing, absolutely. And I can tell you that when we talk about budget later in the year, there will be a line for supporting the general fund portion of this project.
Thank you for that.
Great, thank you. Is there any comments from anyone in the public or online that they would like to make in reference to just this resolution at the moment? Not seeing any. This is a resolution. It does not have to be voted out of committee. So we'll proceed to the next agenda item, a resolution urging the Delaware General Assembly to amend the city charter to require the 5 members of the City Planning Commission who are appointed by the mayor to be subject to confirmation by City Council. The sponsor is Councilman Spadola. Councilman Spadola, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everybody. So this resolution, I think is, and staff, if you could, I think it should be retitled to make the city charter consistent with state law when it comes to planning commissions, because I think that's less of a dramatic title than how it is right now, and more accurate. So just so you all know now, for those who are new to council, right now the Planning Commission is appointed entirely by the executive branch with no notice or approval needed by the council, and that's how it's been at least for some time. State law, however, does it differently. State law for other municipalities, state law says for City Planning Commission, the mayor puts forth the appointees, but they're approved by council. And I am asking if this resolution is approved, ideally the state will amend our charter to say the same thing, because I think what is missing with us and the Planning Commission is collaboration and engagement. And furthermore, when you consider the fact that it takes 3/4 of a council vote to override a Planning Commission decision, yet that commission is made up of entirely executive branch appointees without any council oversight. That seems anti-democratic. That it would take 3/4 of a vote from council to overrule a commission appointed entirely by the mayor's office. So I think it's on one hand, I think it's a housekeeping item. On two, I think it makes us more democratic, more checks and balances. I don't know the history as to how that happened, why the state law is one way, yet our charter is another. If anybody has any background on that, I'm happy to hear it. I should say, I don't know if anybody's there, I did have a conversation with Daniel Walker from the mayor's office. I don't know his title, but he said that the mayor's office is not going to oppose this, which I appreciate. And so I think by getting the state to change our charter, when the mayor does appoint planning commission members, we'll be able to see them come across. And more importantly, I think the planning commission will have some accountability to the council this way too. So when they put something forward, they know that they're only putting something forward that is not just to appease who appointed them, but to also get the votes of the council members. So with that, Madam Chair, happy to hear any comments or take any questions. And if I could, we had this with the last resolution. If you do support it, please add yourself as the co-sponsor, so when we send it down to the state, they immediately see who co-sponsored it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Spadola. At this time, members of City Council of the committee can ask questions, and we'll start with Councilman Field.
I would like to be added as a co-sponsor. I think this is an important resolution. I think what Councilman Spadola is proposing is a best practice. It signifies good, responsive local government that responds to the concerns of city residents. And without getting into details, last term on a certain key issue, the fact of the matter is the Planning Commission consisted of nearly everybody on the commission, or almost everyone on the commission, lived outside of the city and were all appointed and answerable to the executive. And there were certain high-profile issues where I don't think that was responsive or represented the decisions that they made, or the direction that they were expected to go in was not responsive to neighborhoods and the concerns of the majority of the citizens of the city of Wilmington. And I think what Councilman Spadola is proposing is responsive local government.
Thank you. Councilmember Darby?
Yeah, I'm on the same page as Councilmember Fields here. I just wanted to make sure I was added as a co-sponsor.
And Councilmember Darby is the co-chair of the committee, if I did not introduce her as such. Councilmember Willauer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with the comments that have been made so far, and I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Councilmember Hackett, is that your hand?
It was a wonder, but you can add me as a co-sponsor. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Councilmember Owen?
Can I be added as a co-sponsor?
Any of the council members that are online, any comments? Council President Congo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to be added.
Councilmember McCoy?
Yes, thank you. Please add me as a co-sponsor.
Thank you. Councilmember Harley?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say that I agree with the comments from the sponsor and from my other colleagues, especially Councilmember Field. And it's a great balance of power, as it should be, between the legislative and executive branch. And I would like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you. I, too, would add myself as a co-sponsor. It is sounds fair and balanced, and that's the way it should be. There anyone else online? Please. No? Councilmember Bracy?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor as well.
Thank you. Are there any comments from anyone in the public at this time? Anyone online? Okay, not seeing any. This resolution will move toward the City Council meeting in April. The next item on the agenda, we're going to hear from a presentation by the Wilmington Neighborhood Conservancy Landbank before we go to the resolution on the hearing, which is sponsored by Councilmember Darby. That way we could have, the presentation first. If you can come forward, we have former Councilmember Bud Friel, as well as former state representative, who is now the executive director of the Land Bank. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize former Councilmember Brigitte Fields, who has joined us here today.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of council. If I may first just acknowledge two of our board members that are here, Howard Schneiker and David Ross, who are sitting behind me over my left shoulder. I want to thank you for the opportunity to address council today about the Wilmington Neighborhood Conservancy Land Bank, or better known as the Wilmington Land Bank. Especially at this important time when we see articles on a regular basis about the shortage of affordable housing, not just here in Wilmington, but in the state and the country. A little background first. In 2015, the Attorney General requested that the Center for Community Progress come to Wilmington and issue a report on vacant and abandoned properties in our city. The report was released in 2016, and one recommendation was the creation of a land bank. Over the next 2 years, the state legislature passed enabling legislation, followed by City Council passing a bill to create the land bank. The legislation created a board that included 3 state appointments, 3 from the city administration, and 2 from council. It was amended 4 years later to add a 3rd council appointment. The mission was very focused in stating that the land bank would return vacant, dilapidated, abandoned, and delinquent properties back to productive use while strengthening and revitalizing our neighborhoods and inspiring economic development. As we all know, delinquent properties are a detriment to any community. I'm sure you've gotten the calls that they attract crime, high incidence of fire, rodents, trash, and they reduce property values. For the person living in a home attached to a vacant property, their life can be a nightmare. At the inception of the land bank, the city of Wilmington transferred all of its vacant structures and lots to the land bank. The structures were the worst of the worst, and if I recall, the number was around 100 properties. At that time, the land bank was in a position to sell the properties to potential buyers for as low as $1,000. Those properties are gone, and we are no longer able to give properties away. We must now accept bids on our properties, which sometimes creates hard feelings for the unsuccessful bidders. Over the year, the land bank has experienced bumps and challenges. However, there have been many positive outcomes. At the end of '24, the land bank has disposed of 166 rehabs for affordable home ownership, 46 rehabs for affordable rental, 113 nonprofit joint affordable housing projects, 25 neglected lots sold as side yards, 73 unsafe structures have been demolished, improving neighborhood safety, 12 urban gardens, and 92% of our buyers have been minority. Today, the land bank is still a small nonprofit agency with a total staff of 4 individuals. Our current inventory includes approximately 62 structures and 170 lots, though many of them are small and very narrow. The land bank is a key partner with other nonprofit housing providers: Habitat for Humanity, Woodlawn Trustees, Cornerstone West, Reach Riverside, Delaware Affordable Housing Group, and of course the City of Wilmington. The land bank has currently 2 major projects. In 2021, former Mayor Michael Brzezicki created the East Side Initiative with over a $30 million investment. Working with some of the above partners, this initiative has touched over 250 properties on the East Side. Over 50 properties have been rehabbed and sold to first-time home buyers. Other properties have been rehabbed for affordable rental, and many properties are in different stages of construction. One unit on Pine Street houses the Community Public Safety Initiative at no cost. 2 other parcels are used as park open space. Just drive through the East Side today and you will see for yourself the incredible amount of work taking place. The land bank was able to assist by acquiring the properties and transferring them to all the nonprofit entities. The second project, one dear to my heart, is the Lower Hilltop Initiative. The Lower Hilltop Initiative was initiated by the land bank. It was an idea that stemmed from attending community meetings of the West Side Neighborhood Coalition and listening to the complaints about the vacant properties in the area of the 200 block of North Harrison and Conrad Street. In 2021, I conducted a visual survey identifying almost 50 vacant properties from Pleasance to 4th and North Franklin and North Van Buren Streets. Just think of that. That small area had 50 vacant properties. I don't have to tell you what the quality of life was for those residents. In the fall of '22, with $1 million in city ARPA funds and $850 in state bond bill dollars, the land bank started buying vacant properties. Today, in phase 1 of the Lower Hilltop Initiative, 14 properties have been rehabbed and sold. 4, with 2 side lots, are completing punch list items to ready for listing. 1 is for sale, 5 are under construction, 2 are accepting bids for construction, 8 are waiting for construction, and 5 are being held for future project. We have touched 41 properties in the original footprint. We have increased home ownership and the property values for the residents in the area. More importantly, we have taken an area that was riddled by crime and made it safe for longtime residents and new homeowners. In this area, level 1 crimes have been reduced by 53% in 1 year. This work was only possible because of an outstanding team that included the mayor's office, city council, the police and fire departments, license and inspection, Westside Grows, the Latin American Community Center, the community itself, and the funders. We are so proud of our work that we have expanded our focus area west to Delamore Street. We already have 2 properties under construction. We have 3 adjacent properties that we are working with the Be Ready for Jesus CDC, Westside Grows, and Councilmember Willauer to rehab for home ownership. Our hope is to continue the positive progress as we expand our area. In addition, to show our support, we have relocated our office to the 200 block of North Franklin Street. We are now part of the community. Hopefully, I've given you a snapshot of the progress and the results of the Wilmington Landbank. With your continued support, we can accomplish even more. I know some council members have walked with me in the Hilltop area, but I welcome all members and members of the community to join me when your schedule permits to see firsthand the progress. Thank you for your time today, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Friel. At this time, I will open it for questions of the committee members of this committee, and then we'll go on to other council members and then the public. Council members? Councilman Hackett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My one question that I do have is, you named some great organizations like Habitat for Humanity, Reach, Riverside, Woodlawn, and Cornerstone. Out of the properties that you have, do you have amount that you divvied out to all the organizations?
I don't have it breaking down, but the one number I gave you, 113, that was a number that dealt with all the nonprofits that we worked with. And we've done a lot of work with them on the east side.
Council President Congo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Currently, are there any properties available for the public?
One of the things I've tried to do before, when I took over about 6 weeks ago, was basically clean up and update our inventory. I'm hoping by next week we will have that done. At that time, we're going to look and see if there's some properties that we can put out for bid to the general public. So I would say within the next couple of weeks, you'll see some properties come on our website that will do that.
Okay. Just a follow-up, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thanks. How come they haven't been made available to the public so far?
Well, we did do 9 or 10 properties in the fall. And like I said, I want to go ahead and make sure our inventory is accurate. I don't want to put something out there that maybe we don't own anymore, maybe we transferred it to one of the nonprofits. So that's what I've been working on. Hopefully I'll get it done and we'll be able to offer some properties to the public.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I did want to mention, because you didn't mention Jumpstart. Could you talk about that program with Scenair and Jumpstart?
Yeah, we've worked with Jumpstart, Scenair Jumpstart program over the years. Our operations director, Ray Sakamundi, is actually one of the folks that participate in offering classes. And we do offer properties every year to the program. Currently, we have 5 properties reserved for their next group of candidates.
Thank you. Councilmember Harley, who is the newest member of the Wilmington Land Bank. You may proceed, Councilmember.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that little short intro. I have had the opportunity to attend my first meeting, which was, I guess, last month, and our new executive director, Mr. Friel, was elected. So congratulations again. My question, I want to say thank you to the Land Bank, first of all, for all the work that they have been doing on the east side, which has definitely changed the landscape of the east side. All the different housing organizations that are participating in the renovations, Habitat, Woodlawn, Trustees, Central Baptist, Senior, all of them. I just want to say thank you, and hopefully there's some connection with the properties from the land bank. Madam Chair did mention Jumpstart. How does Jumpstart, like, what is that process? Now, to my understanding, and I just want to make sure the understanding that I have is correct. If you go through Jumpstart, they have sort of like first opportunities for the properties. Is that correct, or what is the process?
Councilmember, to be honest with you, I have no idea. I just know that we participated some years ago, and we were asked to reserve 5 properties this year for the program, and that we have done that. But I'll have to get back to you about the specific process.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Whitlower.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Friel, for coming, and to the members of the board. Some familiar faces here, and it's nice to see you. I have some questions. I actually have a bunch of questions, but the first is that I know that state law, the land bank, was enabled through state law, and some of the things that constituents bring up to me is this whole issue of transparency and consistency. And I know that when the land bank was set up, one of the things that the state law tried to do was set up a transparency framework for the land bank. And one of those things, there was a couple things that were required in the state law, including that a complete inventory of all the property owned by the land bank, including the location, purchase price, identity of the transfer to the land bank, and any conditions or restrictions applicable to the property, that listing be available all the time on the City of Wilmington website. And I've just, periodically gone back and forth to the website, and I haven't seen it there over the last few years. So, and when you go there now, it says, like, there's no listing on the website. So I would just ask, why not, and what is your timeline for making sure that inventory is consistently available? And not just the inventory, but all that information is available to the public.
Let me be very honest with you. The land bank has had some challenges over the years, and I think probably the biggest one is capacity, personnel, and capacity. We had 2 executive directors that didn't work out early on, and we tried to go forward with just 2 employees total. One was an operations and one was a finance person. What happened in 21 was when the city started the East Side Initiative, the land bank actually was going to play a very small role in that initiative. But for whatever reason, things changed, and basically the land bank became responsible for acquiring all the properties that they were interested in purchasing, plus finding contractors, plus disposing of the properties. I think it was overwhelming. I know it's not a great excuse, but I think they just fell behind with organizational things that should have gotten done. All I can tell you right now as we move forward, some of the things that I'm working on that I want to get done within the next couple of weeks to a month. First was we had to get our financials all updated, which we have done, and I think we shared them with council last week. Next, as you mentioned, or any other question from Council President Congo, so we got to update our inventory, we got to get it back on the website, and we got to make sure it stays accurate. All right, and I'm hoping that's going to happen next week. I want to update the disposition list, make sure all that information is accurate and back on the website. I want to update the website. The website is embarrassing right now, to be honest with you. I want to make sure we start getting the minutes of the meetings for the last year and a half on there. There's other things that we have to get added, like you said, the list, and other information. And then I need to go ahead and complete the information for this year's annual report. We have been producing an annual report every year that we let out to the public, but that needs to get done. So I know organizationally there's things that we have to get done, and we have to get them done quickly. And we are working on making that happen. So I'm going to tell you, the list I gave you, all that's going to be done in the next 2 to 4 weeks.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Friel. And I just want to say I did have the opportunity to launch the Wilmington Land Bank. So just as far as full transparency, I'm proud of our accomplishments in that first year and a half that I was there, and some of the board members are still serving. I thank you for your service, and I know it's a lot of work. So I hear everything that you're saying about capacity and things like that. At the same time, I know that the public just has certain expectations, and that the agency just needs to meet those. And some of the other concerns that people have raised is just and this is from people who do contracting in the city or people who live next to these vacant properties. It's like, what is the process for acquiring a vacant property from the land bank? And on the website there's a policies and procedures up there, and I think it has staff members to contact that are no longer are at the land bank, and it still lists that you can acquire properties for $2,000. So I do get calls from people asking me, like, the land bank says it sells properties for $2,000, and the land bank says I need to contact this person, and I don't hear back from them, and they say they can't sell it to me for $2,000, and it just creates like a lot of confusion for people who are seeking to develop positive relationships with the land bank. So I just want to really emphasize the need for transparency, but also like established, consistent policies and practices that people can depend on around acquiring the properties.
I don't disagree with you at all. Once again, all I can say right now is that we're going to update the website. But I do want to say again, as I said in my remarks, we received a bunch of properties from the city basically at no cost when we started. So it was no big deal at that time, I guess, to go ahead and let those properties go for very little cost, sometimes zero cost. That's not the case anymore. I mean, we're now purchasing properties. We get properties two ways. You can go through the sheriff's sale process, or we can purchase them. And we cannot let them go for $1,000 or $2,000 anymore. The last series we did, we had applicants bid, and we had amounts in there, and we got bids up to $20,000 to $30,000 a property, and that's how they were disposed of. But just because you'll know the area very well, just all the work we've done in the Hilltop, we can't just wait for a property to become vacant and see what happens to it. We now have to be aggressive out there. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. About 2 weeks ago, on 3rd Street, I get a call from an individual about a property that is now vacant and is for sale. Didn't have a for sale sign on it, but it was for sale. I guess somehow he found out about it. He called me right away and he said, can the land bank look at this? And I said, definitely. We want to know of any vacant properties in the area because we're going to try aggressively to purchase them. He said, well, I want you to hurry because all these cars are showing up with New Jersey license plates. As you know, compared to Philadelphia, New York, and other places, property here in Wilmington is cheap. And these investors come down here looking to buy not 1, 10, 15, 20 properties. So we have to compete with them now. We ended up getting the property, but it cost us $110,000 to do it. But that's what we're going to have to do if we want to change these communities around and really revitalize them by getting first-time home buyers, owner residents in these properties. So I understand people are upset. There's 2 major negatives I've heard about, and you mentioned kind of both of them. One is contractors are upset, some of them because they haven't gotten work, but others have, and they don't want to know why. And 2, we have not been responsive to our phone calls and emails and stuff like that. And that will change. I've been returning calls within 24 hours over the last 2 weeks. As soon as they come in, I call them back. Now, I don't always have the message they want, but they're getting an answer. So I hear you, and we're going to correct it.
Okay, we'll do one follow-up, and then I got Council President, and then Councilmember Oliver. I do want to recognize that Councilmember Johnson has joined us.
I can wait after.
Okay, Council President Conco.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Has the land bank changed its model since its inception? And I guess I asked that because it seems like when it was first created, it was really geared towards local Wilmingtonians having first access to the properties, and now it seems like it's geared towards nonprofits and like larger entities getting multiple properties. Is that like what's the model of the land bank right now?
I don't know if the model has changed. I mean, we still would like to see locals buy our properties. Now, when they get on the listing, obviously you can't reject the buyer just because they don't live in the city of Wilmington. But we do. I mean, we work closely with our nonprofits. You know, the group I mentioned, in trying to acquire properties. You might have, for example, you might have a Habitat working in an area, and there's some vacant properties that would increase their footprint and be able for them to offer more affordable housing. Well, we will try to go after those vacant properties and then dispose of them to the Habitat. But all our multi-bundles are usually to nonprofits. I mean, we don't have big developers coming in here wanting our properties. That just doesn't happen, and we wouldn't give them to them anyway. So we still do a lot of single houses, but we also work closely with our nonprofits. So I don't know if the model's changed. I think it's been similar to that since day one.
If I could just add real quick, Council President, see, some of what happened is with the monies that were put into the East Side Rising and the development, that because the city, this is the land bank, so any property that the city acquires, it is going to go in there, even if the land bank themselves are not the ones developing it, is that we ended up with those properties, and they have been going to those nonprofits because that's also rental. Not everybody can become a home buyer, but 85% of our contractors are minority owned. And Mr. Friel, could you speak to that? Because we have some from out of town, but not that many, if you have those numbers.
No, I mean, right now, currently, 78% of our contractors are minority, and I believe most of them are all from Wilmington. I mean, even on the east side where the nonprofits are doing a lot of work, we do have individual homes, too, being rehabbed by small contractors. So it's a mix over there of what we're doing.
Thank you. When you just follow, when you say minority, are you talking about African American or women owned, or like, can you specify minority? Or do you know the
African
breakdown?
American, it could be Hispanic, it could be women.
Do you know the breakdown of African American
No, I do
and
not.
Latino?
I do
Okay,
not.
thank you.
Get that to you, though.
Thank you.
Let's go with Councilmember Oliver.
How you doing, Councilman Friel?
Good.
First, I would like to give kudos to the Land Bank for the great job they've done throughout the city. I think they have done a great job, especially on the east side. But to, when you mention, what I remember the Land Bank was supposed to do in going to the National League of Cities was supposed to try to keep people in their homes, or keep people from the neighborhoods or the locals, as President Congo said, in some of the homes. So it's okay, I keep hearing you talk about the nonprofit organizations and all, that's fine, but I don't agree that all the properties should go to all the nonprofit organizations. That's not what you said. I just want to make a statement here, because I know some guys who were at the sheriff's sale, and I received a couple of calls that they came to the sheriff's sale, and someone from the Land Bank was buying a house for $80,000, and it really was worth maybe 10 or 20. So if you have somebody from the Land Bank who has, you know, all kind of money, and they're buying it for $100,000 and, you know, bumping people out, I didn't think that's what the Land Bank should be about. As I stated, I think it's done a great job, but I think the transparency is not there when we do have a lot of people from out of town who has purchased these homes, because I live on the east side, and I know 10 people, walking by, seeing people work on their homes. I'm like, where are you from? And they're from out of town, so it's not a lot of locals. And I thought it was supposed to be for single women or men to get their credit together. The banks help them get a house, you help them stay in there. But it seems to me now the Land Bank has become a real estate agency. When you start talking about getting a house for $100,000 or $200,000, I mean, reading what the Land Bank was about and knowing what it was about, taking up big vacant blocks and fixing them up and trying to get people to invest in their community. And I'm not minimizing the outstanding work y'all have done. I'm not going to take that away, because you have. But I just think we have lost the model of the locals, keeping some of the local people in some of these homes, and just to, you know, if it's not a lot of inventory, I'm wondering if, you know, like you said, it's nothing on there, you're trying to get things together. I just don't understand. You know, I'm looking at the report. The report says 2003, 2002. It should be a 2003, 2004 report. And like I said, once again, you can't take away the work the Land Bank has done, but I think it should be focused on more of trying to keep people in the neighborhood opposed to trying to, buy people houses for $10,000, running people out. When I went to National League of Cities, they had a program that if somebody's house was up for sheriff sale for $10,000, $11,000, their land bank assisted them and paid half of it or whatever to help them stay in that house. Where in the city of Wilmington, we are taking people houses opposed to trying to keep them in the houses, and that's the only part that I just think it's turned into its own real estate agency. Even though I'm in favor of it, and you're doing good work, but in the meantime, we don't want to push people out of our neighborhoods, because I do know that the previous mayor did hire an investigator to go on the east side, and they railroaded some people out of them houses. And one other thing I don't agree with is that if Woodlawn trustees could buy houses and rent them out, why can't Kobe buy a house and rent it out? Why does Kobe have to flip his house? Because I've had people who say they bought houses, but they're not allowed to flip their houses, but they're not allowed to rent out their houses. And Woodlawn does a great job. I'm just using them for example, because they're one of the major nonprofits over there. So if they bought up over 50 or 60 houses and they're able to rent them out, why can't you rent out your house? Why do you have to buy a house? Why do I have to buy a house? And if this is true, why do I have to buy a house? And I know it's true, and you have to sell it. So if you could just answer that question, I don't have any, about selling them. I don't think a particular person should be able to save, because he wants to make some money off his house too. So I don't think he should have to sell his house and not rent it out for a year, but other people are able to rent out their houses. But I do support the land bank because I think it does a good job, but I just think it needs to be some reform or just a little change in there or something.
You've said a lot
Just
there.
before your time, though.
Yeah, you've said a lot there, but I do want to correct one thing. The land bank does not go after any houses unless they're vacant. We do not go after people's houses if they're living in their house and they're behind on their mortgage or they're behind on their payments. We don't get involved in those type of houses. Our mission is very, very clear. We only go after vacant properties, all right? As far as that last part, when you apply for a property, if you're an individual come apply for a property, you have to state whether you're going to live in the property or whether you're going to fix the property up and then rent it out. We are in some areas, I'll be honest with you, in the Hilltop, we are very much focused on home ownership. When we started working there back in late 22, 70% of the properties were rental. That's just too much for any one community. It's got to be more of at least a 50-50 home ownership versus rental. And that's what we're trying to get to. But as far as pushing people out of their houses, we don't do that. And I got to tell you, the houses we go after, these aren't Wilmington residents that own these houses anymore. Usually there's landlords who have left the property or people who aren't even living in the state anymore and just let the properties go. And we try to track down owners and try to figure out a way to buy the property. But we don't push anybody out of a property.
Let me follow up, but we have like 4 people who have questions, and then we have the public. So the only thing I will say to the council members is if we're going to get too detailed with the questions, we can get those questions, sit down with the Land Bank Board, Councilman Friel, and really get into the details just to keep the meeting moving. But right now I have Councilman Hackett had his hand up, and then Councilman Owen.
Okay, I'm going to just do my follow-up.
Oh, yes, go ahead and do your follow-up.
I'm doing my follow-up.
Yes.
I didn't think I was getting too deep. I just asked questions. I thought that's what the committee meeting was for, but I'm done. Thank you.
Councilman Hackett, Owen, I got 2 online, and then Councilman Field.
I just had a question with the process of like a local person wanting to buy a property. You said that sometimes you had them bid the property for that amount. Is that the same thing for the nonprofits as well? Like, are they coming and they're bidding for the properties, or there's a different process?
I would say it's a different process working with the nonprofits because they're trying to create affordable housing also.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Owen.
Yes, I have a few questions. First, you were talking about in 2021 that y'all weren't prepared to be, you thought you were going to play a minor role in the acquisition of the Eastside Rising project, but then you became the primary, you got all of them pretty much?
Well, I don't want to sit here and say all of them, but most of the
majority.
acquisitions that became part of the East Side Initiative, the Land Bank played a key role in acquiring those properties, yeah.
And that was from a partnership from the administration side of the city?
Well, it was the administration's initiative, yes. I mean,
Okay.
if you recall, the Mayor Brzezicki created that initiative, and then we ended up playing a key role in it.
Why was it that you originally thought you were only going to play a small role? Was it because of the operation and that's what you were prepared for, or was it kind of forced on y'all to do more than what y'all were originally set up for at the time?
Well, if you look at the original press release that went out, we were like one small bullet in there for like 10 houses. And I don't know the details, I was not involved, but whatever happened, whatever project manager they had, it didn't work out. So then it all just kind of got put in the Land Bank's lap to go ahead and do it. And the tough part was at that time, we only had 2 employees. So it was a lot of work on them to try to accomplish what they have accomplished and where we are today.
And second with that, so like Councilwoman Oliver said, we are the packet that we have says 2022, 2023, and some of the numbers are a little different from the numbers you just presented. So I would love to have those updated numbers because it seems as though
And what
minority
packet
buyers.
are you looking at? What packet are you folks referring to?
The one that was provided to council.
Financial packet.
Financial.
That one has minority buyers at 85%, and you stated 92. If it's at 92, that is great. And kind of piggybacking on Council President Congo with the breakdown, can council receive the breakdown of both buyers and contractors? The minority breakdown for that, because as of right here, I think I got your numbers correct. 92 minority buyers, 78 for the contractors,
right.
correct?
And that's as of end of 24.
Okay. And my last question, or I have following up with that, how many minority-led nonprofits do y'all work with?
I just listed the names of the nonprofits, so.
Those are all the nonprofits y'all work with?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Well, there are, I just got finished an email, working with a group, LEAP, and we're trying to work with them on some properties and things like that. So there are others. I'll have to get back to you. I mean, there's some smaller ones too we've been working with.
And then my last question is, what is your conflict of interest policy and how is it enforced?
Well, all our board members have to sign a conflict of interest document. I don't have it with me, but they all sign it. So it pretty much restricts them from being able to buy or be involved in transactions that involve the land bank.
How long has that policy been in place?
I think it's been several years that we've been signing it.
So I see that some of the nonprofits that you listed,
Right.
Their leaders are on your board,
Right.
and they're also acquiring property. So wouldn't that technically be a violation of
You'll
that policy?
have to ask an attorney that. I mean,
Okay.
they're not acquiring properties for themselves. I mean, they are acquiring. One I can think of, he's acquiring properties for his nonprofit.
Right,
Who does
correct.
great work and he's been there for years and years. But I don't think he benefits from it. But I understand what you're saying. But that would be a question for a lawyer. I don't know.
Right, and the only reason I bring that up is because it would create an unfair advantage for the nonprofit that knows your stock, that hasn't been listed for years.
Yeah.
Currently, it says check back in 2025, right? So it creates a unequal balance when it comes to opportunity to acquire, whether it's bundles or not. If another nonprofit wanted to do that, they would not be able to because they don't even know the stock that y'all have available. But it's easier for someone, if their nonprofit leader is on your board of directors, they can kind of move in parallel of their strategies to make sure they're properly planned. It's something that creates, especially if you're not working with any other minority nonprofits as well too, it creates an unfair advantage. And this is just some of the issues that we've heard over the years. So again, I know you're new. Congratulations on the new role. I look forward to talking to you quite often. The last thing I'll say is, I know your focus right now is Eastside and Hilltop. It is money coming from all of city taxpayers going into this. So the work should be equally distributed across the city. That's it.
Let me just say that to the last point and why we're doing it the way we're doing it. And a lot of it comes from my experience being with the city and dealing with housing issues. You know, when we started, there were about 1,500 vacant properties. To me, that's overwhelming when you look at it for the citywide. And to fix a property on this address and at this block and over in this neighborhood, you don't really have an impact. You really don't have a real impact on bringing that neighborhood back. Now, we know there's certain neighborhoods where there's a great deal of vacant properties. I gave you the example. The thought was, by investing in one community, trying to revitalize that community and then slowly grow from there, was the best way for really having an impact. Now, I'm not saying we don't have other properties. I mean, we just bought a property in Browntown. We have some in Southbridge, not much in other communities. I mean, if people come to me and say, hey, we really need to get this property, I have somebody that wants to fix it up, things like that, we will do that. I do want to just take a step back for the nonprofits in general. Nonprofits acquire properties so that they can sell them at a very affordable rates. They can get those first-time home buyers in there. They can meet that 80% of average median income. Sometimes we give properties to individuals that want to fix the property up and sell it. They don't want to meet that income. They want to make as much money as they can make out of it, all right? Mm-hmm. And that's fair, but we have to make sure that we understand that we're trying to get people in homes for the first time, right? I've been trying to keep our prices under $200,000, which is almost unheard of. So that's part of the reason why we do some of the things we do. We can talk about, not asking here, but offline, you can tell me about some of the minority-owned nonprofits that you don't feel are getting a fair shake, or they don't feel getting a fair shake. I would love to know that, because we are dealing with them. Like I just mentioned the one to you, and we're trying to help them out whenever we can. So.
Thank you. We have Councilmember McCoy online. I am going to have the members of the committee speak first and then other council members. You may proceed, Councilmember McCoy, and then Councilmember Field, and then we'll come back to you, Councilmember Hartley.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I put the question on chat previously. I just wanted to find out when I said Mr. Friel actually stated the amount that he had paid for a house recently. I was wondering why we don't have a cap on how much we are willing to pay for a vacant home.
Well, once again, I'm going to be kind of repeating myself. I think if we really want to revitalize some of these neighborhoods that have a very high rental rate, we got to have to be aggressive at going after the vacant properties. And if it means competing, we should do that. And that's why we don't have a cap, because we really want to rebuild these neighborhoods the best we can.
Okay. May I follow?
Yes.
All right. And so the only reason why I asked that question is because I do realize how instrumental it is to that you find funding sources, not just through council, but other places. And if we're using most of the funds to actually trying to acquire vacant properties, then our the stock, I guess, will definitely not be as much because we're spending all the money trying to actually acquire. I just wanted to find out, like how are we offsetting that? Because it seems as though, like, at some point we may start really running out of funds.
Well, our number one goal is to acquire properties. Once again, vacant properties. In many cases, these are long-standing vacants. Part of my role when I came on board was to try to raise money, and we've been doing that. We've been successful at all levels of government, from the city up to the federal government. We've also had private contributors. I'm afraid if I start here, I'll forget somebody, but we've had M&T Bank, Bank of America, Barclays, WSFS, recently Discover Bank, and we'll continue to work with them and hopefully raise more monies so that we can continue to subsidize these properties. As you can guess, we pretty much subsidize any property that's out there one way or the other. So my fear is the same as you, is the day going to come when we don't have enough money. I hope the day comes first when we don't have an issue with vacant properties here in the city of Wilmington, to be honest with you.
I definitely agree. I'm sorry, Madam Chair, if I could just say ask one more question.
Okay.
Okay. So the last thing is I just wanted to find out was whether or not, because this is maybe a question that's been asked and answered. I didn't really hear everything in the beginning. but whether or not you're still, you are competing for these vacant homes, are you still responsible for the same fees that another person or organization would be if they were trying to purchase the home? Like when it comes to anything like water, or property taxes, are you still responsible for paying those same things as well as the structure?
No, we are
When you're
not.
competing for these amounts?
No, if you're talking about city fees, no, we are not.
Thank you. Did that answer your question, council member?
Yeah, it did. It made another question, but go ahead. I'll perform.
Councilman Field, Darby, and then Councilmember Harley, and then we do want to open it up to the public.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Field. Thank you for coming here, and thank you for coming and giving such a good presentation and unpacking the land bank and answering these questions so thoroughly for the committee. I want to ask a question on another topic within the land bank. So the highest profile single property in the land bank's portfolio is arguably Gibraltar. And this has attracted attention and some questions from members of council. And it is also the subject of the next item on the agenda. So I'm wondering if, just in your capacity as the director, if you could provide just the facts as you understand them. Where does Gibraltar, he's giving a presentation on the land bank, and Gibraltar is the single highest profile property in the land bank. So where does Gibraltar fit within the land bank's mission? To the best of your knowledge, what are the plans or lack of plans for the property?
Okay. Obviously, you know, and anybody in that community knows, that Gibraltar's been sitting for year after year after year after decade, sitting and deteriorating to the point where it was definitely an eyesore and falling apart, and it was clearly vacant. So if you go back to the mission that I mentioned right in the beginning, it talked about vacant, dilapidated, abandoned, delinquent properties, and I think Gibraltar fell into that category. Now, my understanding what happened was that Mayor Pizicki had had enough, and he wanted to see something happen with that property. And he felt the only way it could work was for the city to somehow get control of the property. It had been owned by nonprofits and profits over the years, and nothing still happened. So he came to the chair of the land bank and said, we'd like to acquire this property and put it in the land bank and for you folks to hold it. We will be giving you some money to rehab the property, do basic rehab, cleaning it up, putting a new roof on it, things like that. However, I have to tell you that all the land bank did was hold it. The mayor and the Department of Real Estate and Housing directed what construction was going to take place, what work was going to take, and then we would pay the invoices. So that property is still in our inventory. It is my understanding that there are no plans at this point for the use of that property. I do understand that the former mayor is working with Preservation Delaware to try to put together a foundation to work on that property. But as far as I know, there are no plans for the final use of that property.
Councilmember Darby is next, and Councilman Field is going to follow up as other council members have followed up. Okay, Councilman Field.
So thank you for that answer, and that's kind of my understanding of the situation as well. And just a point and a question. So a property, any redevelopment of the property would require significant rezonings and significant input from the community to obtain them. So there is no, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no possibility of some kind of sneaky real estate proposal where someone can pull a fast one and redevelop Gibraltar without major public input and process and zoning permissions from the community. And I checked with this chief of staff today to ask. The mayor's office has not engaged in any conversations whatsoever about the, real estate proposals for Gibraltar. Their understanding is it's simply being held by the land bank in an administrative state. Can you confirm the facts that I've just stated?
I mean, You know, that's correct. As you might know, there have been different ideas over the years, and they all got crushed somewhere in an approval process, either, I guess, through CBA, other type of things. So I'm not sure anybody, first of all, the land bank wouldn't do that because we've got a commitment to the city that we'll hold the property, and that's it. I'm not sure anybody's going to buy that property until they're going to get the approvals they need for whatever the use will be. So, you know, I just don't see any of these sneaky deals happening. I mean, it's just not possible. But like I said, there is, the former mayor and Preservation Delaware are looking at putting together a foundation where they would raise money to, as you know, there's also historic aspects to that property that have to be maintained so that they continue to do that. So, you know, I don't know what to tell people that are running around saying that there's a sneaky stuff going on. Yep. There hasn't been since day one.
Thank you.
Councilmember Darby.
Yeah, well, thank you for speaking on my resolution. We'll get to that in a second. But there are three issues that I have with the land bank. So first I want to say that it's so much to say tonight with so many comments and things people have said, but I do agree with the mission of the land bank and what the purpose of it is for, right? And I feel like we have moved away from that purpose, and there have been things that have happened over the last few years, not just the last few months, that are unacceptable, that lack accountability and transparency. So I want to start over for a second so the community can understand the land bank. So the land bank was created by city council. Well, the state gave us approval for the city to create, in the charter, gave us permission to create a land bank. It is a city quasi entity, right? The land bank has been operating as if it's not a city quasi government. And a lot of questions that we're asking here tonight as council members, we actually have control to make them do it. So we have the executive director sitting here tonight. There have been questions that have been asked and he doesn't have data. We asked him about the percentage of minorities. He did not have the information. So there was not a great presentation. It was not thorough. We did not get what we needed here tonight. And a lot of the questions that we're asking as city council members, we have the power in our code to make them do these certain things and be accountable to the community and to us. So it's for me to sit here and listen to some of the things and questions that you're asking and they're not being answered is very unfortunate. And then for my resolution to be brought up without me giving a chance to have my opening comments is another unfortunate thing. But I wanted to be very clear that with the land bank, you have it operating for years as if it's its own entity. City council has the power to do some a lot of land bank reform. And there's some things we can do. In the city of Philadelphia, and I know city council members hate when I bring up the city of Philadelphia because of the size of 70 to a million people, right? However, we can look at cities that are similar makeup and of similar size to figure out how do we reform our land bank. So in the city of Philadelphia, they actually appoint who their ED is to their land bank, to their executive director. You also have cities of similar size who hold their land bank accountable, where they have committees where the community can come and make complaints about the land bank, and then that investigation happened. We don't have any of those checks and balances currently, and we can have that on the land bank. So for me to sit here and listen to this presentation, I'm sorry, it's unacceptable. There were a lot of questions that have not been answered. There's still a lack of accountability and transparency. And also, that goes into my second point, is about the current ED who sits in this seat. I am not in agreement with. It's a city quasi-government. City council has to have more say in who sits in that seat. You have the current ED person who have been on other failed organizations like the Wilmington Housing Partnership of over $3 million, where the city still does not understand what happened to that money years later. So I think it's very unfortunate that we're sitting here as city council people, we're asking him for something and he does not have it when we have the power to make him do it. By the city code, if 2/3 of us decide we wanted to dissolve and or suspend services so they can do reform to make them be accountable to our community and to us, we can do that as a city council. So we sit here and we ask all these questions. Why don't you have this? Why don't you do this? Why don't you have this document? We have the power to do that, to hold the land bank accountable. And I don't want to stop the good work that the land bank is doing, but you can't have somebody do a little bit of good and you turn your eye against the bad. They have to be held accountable. They're not their own entity operating out of here. So city council, y'all, we have a responsibility, and I'd like to sit here all night and ask them questions when we can make them do it, when we can put it in our code. I'm just not going to sit here and do it. So for me, it's the lack of accountability, the transparency, the conflict of interest. There are so many other things, and I'm going to get into Gibraltar later with my resolution, thank you, with my opening comments. And it has to be reformed. So we can have Bud Friel sit here tonight and tell us how great the land bank is, and we ask him why he's doing this and not doing that, when we as a city council have the power to make him do it, so that he's held accountable to our community and to us. And the land bank moved against its purpose and mission when they did several things, especially Gibraltar, because we don't hold property for private interests. That is not what the land bank is for. The land bank is for public, it's for the community, it's for us to acquire, manage, and distribute it back out to the community, not for us to acquire it and then hold it so that the ex-mayor Przicki and his preservation group can decide what they want to do with it. And I'll hit on those points later. But that's all I want to say tonight. So we're going to keep going around in circles. Y'all are going to keep asking him for stuff. He's going to say he doesn't have it. He's going to stack his papers and look at them and just talk about all the great work he did when you guys do stuff.
Point of order.
Just a brief response.
For your comments, you can respond, but I would say point of order. The point is, this is a presentation on the land bank, not an inquisition. If we want to have these detailed conversations, we can have that meeting separately. The land bank was supposed to come in May to do their presentation, where they would have all the details, and the executive director would have had time to get everything together, being that he was just elected. And I will remind people that 3 members of city council sit on the board of the land bank, including the council president, the chair of the finance committee, and the community development urban planning chair, which I asked to be on that because of my work with the neighborhood stabilization. Councilman Friel, you may respond. We're going to go to Councilmember Harley, who's had her hand up for a while, Willauer and Kobe, and then we're opening up to the public.
Yeah,
because we do have another resolution to present.
Just briefly, I thought I had provided quite a bit of data. I also admitted to our shortfalls over the years and that we're trying to improve them. I'm not sure you want to use the city of Philadelphia as an example. If you Google City of Philadelphia Land Bank, they've been rattled with corruption. And we probably have disposed of more properties in the City of Philadelphia Land Bank. I am going to tell you that we've done some good things, because I think we have, and hopefully we'll continue to do that in the future. But that's all I'm going to say to that.
Thank you. Councilmember Harley?
Yes, I'm not going to be long, Madam Chair. Thank you for this opportunity. I just want to say that if there are items that we as a council feel as though we want the director to put together and share with the council, we can just ask for it. I'm not sure when he was asked to come, what he was asked to be prepared to talk about, but I do feel as though we should be reasonable in terms of how we are trying to work together. So if council want certain information, we can just put a list together and simply ask for it. That's all I have to say at this point in time. My other questions, I'll reach out to the board or other individuals to get some answers. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Harley, and Councilmember Willauer, and then Councilmember Owens.
Yeah, I just had, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask a couple more questions. Does the land bank keep track of who you sell the properties to? And I had a couple follow-ups. And who the final buyer is? And do you track whether or not they are a minority or a city resident?
Obviously, we do have information on who buys our properties. We do have information on whether they're a minority or not. We still haven't, because not all of the properties are sold from the land bank. Some of them go to other entities, and then they sell the properties. So our information on whether they're Wilmingtonians or not is not as accurate as I would like it to be.
Could you provide 2 things? One, your tracking of all those dispositions, like the 140 of, to home buyers and things like that, all those things that are listed in the annual report. Could you provide the list of the properties and then the details on whether or not it's a home buyer or it was for a rental property, and is it, a minority contractor? Like it would be great to have on a property basis, like the numbers behind those things that you list in the annual report. And then the second thing that, people ask a lot is just what is the process for acquiring a property from the land bank? And I think that if you could provide that to council and also, update that on your website, that would definitely help. I know me, who gets a lot of those questions about what do I need to do to acquire our property from the land bank?
Yeah, I mean, we are going to be posting the disposition list, which will have the property and when it was sold and the person that bought it. I don't know if we list what the race is or anything like that when we do that, but we do track it. And of course, we will have the process on there for acquiring properties and things like that as we move forward.
Okay, and I just wanted to say, I do, the Hilltop Initiative, there has been a lot of positive impact in the west side of Wilmington. So I want to thank the Land Bank for all of your efforts. And I know a lot of the residents have worked very closely, together, and also, appreciate the new homeowners. I do have some concerns that while the Land Bank has created a lot of affordable homeownership opportunities, a lot of the buyers are from New York and New Jersey. So I would like to ask, would you be interested in council partnering with you to create legislation that would provide a first look, say for 30 days, for City of Wilmington buyers, so that we could ensure that more of these affordable homeownership opportunities are available to people who currently rent in the city who want to be homeowners?
Yeah, I would like to have a discussion on that. I would just, understand that some of the properties that we sell to small contractors, I don't know if we could restrict them to hold their property for 30 days, but if it's a land bank, if we're selling the property, I think we could do that. I just want to make sure that working with yourself and the community groups that we're promoting that property is available. So we're just not sitting on it for 30 days and nothing's happening to it. But I'm very interested in discussing that with you because I would be supportive of doing that.
Thank you. And Councilman Owens.
Yes. This has to do with Gibraltar. So it was purchased for about $900,000, correct? Mm-hmm. About how much money was put in that y'all did the work to fix up?
At this point, $2.9 million has been transferred to the land bank, and just shy of, I want to say about $675,000 is still left balanced. So a little over, I don't know what that comes out to be, maybe 1.2 million has been worked on construction and rehabbing and cleaning I don't know if you've been out there, but if you walk around the property, it is night and day from what it was a year ago. It's unbelievable.
No, and that's great. But following up for what I asked for earlier about not just working on the west side and east side, but coming over to the north side that has multiple blighted properties that could have been bought. I mean, at this price tag, right? Instead of purchasing one and working on one piece of property in an area that is more high end than most of the city of Wilmington, you could have purchased in my district alone numerous properties to help with blight. And again, I know it's not you just got there. Maybe this is a mishap in the mismanagement of a failed administration who's no longer in power right now. But I'm saying this money could have been used to actually help the neighborhoods that are seeing gun violence, the neighborhood that has crime outside of these blighted properties. But for it to go into one place, and maybe it's because the former administration lived right next door to it. I don't know. I don't know their intentions. They don't talk to me. But again, to see that happen there, it is an extreme mismanagement of our money and our taxpayer dollars. It does not benefit our community. And I'm only bringing this up because this conversation was opened up. Sure. And anyone who knows me on council, y'all can laugh. Y'all know I stand 10 toes down for the 1st District and North Side. There is no investment going over there. But yet we have a record number of shootings, killings, drug dealing, whatsoever, but yet it's continued to be ignored. Then we're told, oh, well, we have to be able to buy a lot in a bulk, a bundle, like we can over Eastside or Hilltop. Okay, fine. But how does this one property get $2.9 million and Northside get nothing, pretty much nothing? Maybe 1 or 2 properties. But you can change a whole community in that amount. Sorry. Again, I just get...
All I can tell you is, as I said before, this is not land bank money. I mean, it's not money that we raised that purchases property or is rehabbing it. I guess the 900 of city, I think the 2 million is from the state bond bill, and that's where the money came to start fixing the property up. That's all I can tell you about it. Now, as far as the north side, as far as your district, give me a call, and let's walk around, or let's drive around and look at the vacant properties and see if there's an opportunity to acquire some of them. I'd be more than willing to do that with anyone on this council in any of the districts, all right? I worked on vacant properties most of the time I was on council. I helped initiate the vacant property registration fee program. I know how much of a detriment they are to the community. And I agree with you. If they're out there, let's see if we can acquire them and fix them up and get them. In my opinion, we should get them in the homeowners' hands, because I think that's the best thing for a community in most communities right now. So Gibraltar is what it is. I can't tell you any more than the administration wanted to do something about it, probably, Mr. Owens, after 30 years. I mean, that's an embarrassment. And you know what? As a former elected official, I take some of the responsibility for that. That shouldn't have happened. State officials should. The community should. That shouldn't have sat there for 30 years the way it has. So I don't blame the former mayor for trying to get something done. At least he's trying. And, you know, you don't agree with how he used the money. Absolutely. I understand that. I understand that. I'm sure most of the council doesn't. But he did it, and we play a small role in it. And, you know, I tried to explain what that role was. But I'm more than willing to meet with you and come.
Yeah, I would. Yes. I would absolutely love to, you know, go through the district and look at places that have also been vacant for 20 years, been vacant all my life, right? I just turned 30 a few weeks ago, right? There's houses that have been vacant my entire life. So again, let's work together.
Yep,
let's work together and make this better for the entire city.
Let's do it.
Thank you. And I know that council members, and even some that are not present here, have a lot of questions, and we definitely welcome the opportunity to do that, and that's a resolution that we're going to be looking at next. At this point, I would like to allow the public to make comment on this presentation so we can move on to the next agenda item. We did not do a sign-up sheet, but I see Mr. Rick Prezwara here. Did I say that correctly?
You did, Councilwoman.
Oh, good, thank you. For someone whose name has been butchered many times, I try to get it right.
Yeah, I
Please
just
introduce yourself.
Rich Prezwara, and I'm the CEO of the Todd Morden Foundation. And as many of you know, the Todd Morden Foundation has been very involved with the Land Bank and the city, and working on particularly the east side, although we are on the west side. Today, we have 84 units, affordable units only, under construction. 53 in the flats that are under construction, and 30 or so on the east side. I just wanted to give you the output, because you've had a lot of questions about what happens when the Land Bank does something. So on the 1000 block of Bennett Street, we received 6 units from the Land Bank. 2 are rented, 2 are being shown right now, and 2 more are about to be completed. You're all about to get an invitation to come to the ribbon cutting for the last one. All 6 of those are going to affordable tenants, rental, 80% AMI or below. And we go through a certification process and make sure they meet that criteria. At the 800 block of Bennett, we work with the Land Bank, and we also privately acquired all the properties on that block. And actually, I think that took years to do it. It predates my arrival. Councilman, you may remember that goes back maybe even to your tenure, the beginning of those acquisitions. So in order to get a block to go, that was a really long time. We're going to, we demolish, those 30 units are gone. There'll be 20 new units. 12 are going to be sold. 8 are going to be kept as affordable renters. The buyers and the renters all have to meet the 80% threshold, so they're all going to be affordable. On Lombard Street, we have 5 vacant lots that were there from the Land Bank, and that'll be 5 new homes for sale, all affordable, under 80% AMI. Happy to tell you that the first one has sold, and it's to an employee of the Pritchard Academy. Nice. So right down the street. Nice. We took the parsonage, received that from the Land Bank, and we've made that, that's on Lombard Street right next to the church. We've made that available for AmeriCorps and Vista workers, and we charge them $475 a month, all utilities, for their rent, so that they can accept the AmeriCorps and Vista positions with other nonprofits. None of them are our folks. They're all working at other locations. We also, on Clifford Brown, if you recall the fire that took out the 2 units, one of those units cost about $280,000 to renovate because it was so badly damaged. No individual investor could have come into the Land Bank and said, I'm going to do that and I can make money on it, because you couldn't. And we bought the other one next door privately because we felt Clifford Brown needed to be maintained. So that's an occasion where the Land Bank came to us and said, can you take a look at this and help out and keep that neighborhood looking the way it does? 529 East 9th Street, we took a vacant house and split it into 2 affordable rentals, 80% AMI. At Spruce Street, we took 2 vacant lots, and the land bank has, I think, Bud, 160 vacant lots. I mean, they're very hard to develop. And we're taking 2 of those vacant lots. We've had a community charrette, and that's going to be a park. And it's going to be a privately maintained park by Woodlawn because the city didn't want to take on any more burden financially. So we're building a park, and it's going to be available for the community, and we're going to pay to maintain that. But that was land bank property that was laying fallow. And then finally on Pine Street, we took a vacant house from the land bank and renovated it for Dr. Wilson's Community Public Safety Initiative. So she's got a $1 a year lease from us to serve the community. Took a land bank property that was not performing, put it to use to serve the larger community. So all the rentals that we do, everybody's at 80% AMI or below. The home sales, everybody's 80% AMI or below. When we do rentals at Todd Morton, we rent below the HUD rate. So a 2-bedroom HUD has a rate. We actually rent below that rate to try to keep them even more affordable. Councilman Congo, you asked about minority construction. We're working, there have been 5 minority developers, 4 black, 1 Hispanic, who've gotten $3.7 million in contracts for us for all these renovations. They've been bidding on the projects. They've been receiving the work. They're employing Wilmington folks. They've been doing a great job. You folks know a lot of them. And then we have a program with the school districts and the hospitals where we let them know about properties that are coming up. So our recent renters have come from the Christina School District, Amazon, Christiana Care, Family Life Services, Stone Gates, and West End. These are Wilmington folks who want to live in the city, who when they have access to a good unit are happy to stay in the city. And I think that's, that's the end process that we don't all talk about that's really working. And I just wanted to come tonight and speak to that and hope that you come to the ribbon cutting because then you can take a look through and go, okay, I see what's going on. These houses are hard. I mean, they really are hard to do the renovations.
Thank you, Mr. Brazar.
Yeah,
as the chair, I was not looking at the time, and
Sorry.
you got an extra 2 minutes there that I apologize. My vice chair was trying to keep me on track, and I heard her, but she tapped me. All right, so we have a 3-minute time limit for anyone else coming up. If you would come up and introduce yourself, because we don't have a sign-up list. Yes.
If it takes 5, I hope you'll give me grace. My name is Maggie Messinger, and I live in the Highlands, 3 doors up from Gibraltar. So to start off with, ever since Preservation Delaware gave the Gibraltar parcel to developers, developers have tried unsuccessfully to lift the legal restrictions on the property. Many, many people don't understand it, but it's clear. There's a conservation easement on the property that says the property shall remain in outdoor recreation and conservation use forever. They said in perpetuity. It is the purpose of this easement agreement to assure that the property will be retained forever in its scenic and open condition and to prevent any use of the property that will significantly impair or interfere with the conservation values of this property. So start with that. The first thing that developer did who got given the property was propose a large-scale office park in a residential neighborhood. This was almost 20 years ago. Community members fought back. State and city did not enforce the laws that were on the books for the conservation easement or code violations. The mansion and the grounds continued its descent into total ruin because the developers, owners, would not spend the money needed to replace the porous roof. Our community group appealed to the state on dozens of occasions. Years later, the state finally demanded that the owners respond within 2 weeks with a plan to repair the damage they caused and to restore the mansion to preservation standards. But instead, another developer partner was invited in by the city, and that new development partner proposed turning the mansion into a hotel and wedding venue, to renovate the greenhouse and garage into a restaurant and retail space, and to build 18 homes on land surrounding the property to help fund that restoration. Community members fought back again, louder this time. Very important to note here is that the hotel developer company is now the general contractor being used by the city and the land bank to restore Gibraltar. The community members who comprise Preserve Gibraltar group of about 125 neighbors circulated information to everyone who would listen over many years. And we know it was too much and we apologize, but we wanted you to know the facts of what was going on and the legal conditions that run with the property. We asked the state to enforce the law. We asked the city to enforce the law. We asked local reps to do something. We submitted plans for alternative uses. We connected with other horticultural tourism destinations to discuss what works. We held community meetings. We submitted petitions. We met with the developer. We met with the preservationists and open space defenders. We went to Dover. We went to our local community association, but they shut down our dialogue. Once the hotel idea was defeated by the community, the mansion continued to deteriorate. Government officials received dozens of additional complaints about Gibraltar's conditions, about trespassers, partiers, graffiti artists, drug users accessing the building, a pornography crew filming a scene inside. The state never exercised its right beyond there to go to court or till to this day to force the owners to repair the escalating damage, and the city did nothing when it could have hit them with dozens of code violations. This is the point at which the state should have stepped in, restored the mansion, and presented the bill to the responsible party, which was the owner. That's the point at which the city should have enforced their property codes.
Ms. Maggie, you are over time.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's a whole lot more.
Oh, so you're going to keep going. All right.
Yeah. Should I stop? Okay.
Can I make a motion to continue?
Can you,
The next person for
Can
public
you-
comment?
Can you make a motion to let someone continue their public comment? Is that allowed?
We could.
I make a motion to allow her to
I mean,
continue.
we have
public
another
comment.
item on that if she wanted to come up a second time and speak.
Well, we had a council person bring it up
Second.
already. I second. He brought it up. Ms. Maggie, you can finish speaking.
We have to vote on it.
We've been promised many times that what will happen at Gibraltar will be a transparent process. Unfortunately, this has not been the case. We get little hints like the one that came out today. The city continues to focus on improving the facade of the mansion. Longer term, the city, Preservation Delaware, and the Land Bank are developing a property plan and fundraising for both the house and the gardens. You would think we'd have known about that. There's no transparency. Not to be dramatic about this, but we have FOIA'd every entity involved in this project. And no one, not one person, can tell us what the plan is. This community deserves better. Without much notice, in November of 2023, the city and the Land Bank signed a conveyance agreement with the owners of Gibraltar, which said, in short, we'll pay you $900,000 for the Gibraltar. We'll give you a free street, but if we can't get that past council, we'll give you another $325,000 for the street that we already own. We'll pay you for all your engineering costs on an adjacent property not related to Gibraltar, so you can subdivide it and build 2 to 3 houses there. And if we don't complete the subdivision process within 6 months, the city will pay you at an interest rate of 9% per annum on $700,000, the amount that you value the 2 lots to be worth. So far, $2.9-ish million have been spent to acquire and mitigate the damages left by the previous owners of Gibraltar. If you add up the cost to the taxpayers since the original conservation easement was purchased, they are extensive. Millions of taxpayer dollars have been spent since the original $800,000 cost of the conservation easement. No one's denying that the property appearance has improved dramatically on the outside and on the grounds. It's unclear whether all the damage to the inside can ever be mitigated. Estimates run $4 to $5 million to repair the inside damage. Community members are asking, what is the plan and why can't there be transparency? Who is in charge of the plan? Why don't state officials tasked with preserving the conservation easement know what the plan is? Why do some community members think the plan involves a restaurant on Green Hill Avenue, on the Green Hill Avenue facing piece of the parcel? Is the general contractor developer who suggested a hotel restaurant on the site involved with planning the
30
plan?
seconds.
Now
You
I'm
have 30 seconds. Yeah.
Okay. And a big concern is in the conveyance agreement, because the land bank is now the owner of this property, it says the land bank may improve, maintain, and convey the Gibraltar parcel. They may sell it to a third party. That is concerning.
3 seconds.
I think I'll stop there.
Thank you. Thank you. I believe Mr. Ross, did you want it to come up?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Madam Chair, thank you. Council President, nice to see you. Council members, I've been a member of the community here in Wilmington for about 7 years. And out of the 7 years, I've been with the Land Bank for 5 years, a couple of years in the Disposition Committee, and 3 now on the governing board. As has been pointed out, we've done some great work over the years. And there's a lot of great talent at the Land Bank. And I want you to recognize the Land Bank, even though it's been around for a number of years, it's in its infancy. So we're going to need some time to come up to par to have the kind of information that you all would like to have. We've never wanted anything hidden or tried to be evasive about any of the work or projects that we do. I myself, along with other board members, have mentored and talked to young contractors and residents that have acquired properties from the Land Bank. And I walked through 2 properties the other day, and I've developed a lot of properties over my many years. And I walked into 2 properties that were done by 2 young men that I sort of mentored that acquired 2 properties from the Land Bank. Outstanding work. As a contractor, as a retired contractor, I walked in, I could not find one blemish. And these were 2 young men from Wilmington. So we're at the bat, we're doing a lot of work, so just bear with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? And we'll go to the next agenda item after that. And we have one person online. Mr. Howe, if you can introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Hal Schneikert. I'm a board member of the Land Bank also. And I know there was some eyeballs lit up when it was told that we just paid $100,000 for a property. One of the things that has changed dramatically in the last 2 or 3 years is that there's just nothing available at sheriff's sale. The sheriff's sale market across the country has seen dramatic changes. You heard that there were a lot of New Jersey cars running around that place that we ended up buying for $100,000. What's happened in several states is that out-of-state investment entities will come in and not buy a property. They will buy every single property that's available on sheriff's sale every time there's a sheriff's sale, to the point where in several states they buy 95% of everything that comes up. And then it goes to speculators. They are speculators. It's hard for us to compete with that, but we have gone out and we have raised money solely for the acquisition of properties so that we can go in and cherry pick things that are really important. We spent $1 million getting a liquor store off a corner. Very, very important in the restoration of that neighborhood. Hell of a price to have to pay, but it was a very, very lucrative liquor store. We had to go out and find the money to do that. The days when we can take the 1,500 houses we had that, it cost us $50,000 to $75,000 to take a house down. Because in this city, the city requires if you take down the middle of a row house, you put up new brick walls on either side. You don't do that in Philadelphia. You don't do that much any other place. But instead of $15,000, $20,000 to knock a house down, it costs you $50,000 minimum because you got to build 2 new walls, brick walls. There are lots of things that aren't obvious to people that make it very difficult to do this job. We're not doing a very good job of a lot of the backroom paperwork, okay? Keeping our websites up to date, getting our information out. We have recently signed up for some help on marketing not
30
marketing,
seconds.
on public information, okay? So that we can do a better job of letting everybody know what we do. And we're working on that, and Bud's going to be very instrumental in making that happen. And if he's not, I'll beat him up a little bit because I'm on the executive committee. But no, I've been trying to get him to take this job for a long time. Glad to have him. But there's a lot going on that's good, a lot more than anybody knows about, and we need to get the word out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. We have someone online, Miss Charity. She's been waiting. Miss Charity, you have your hand raised. WITN, is Charity still there? Oh, no, she left. Okay, we have online Kevin Smith and Jamila Davy.
I'll take her spot.
Okay, if you could please introduce yourself.
Yeah, we got 3 minutes.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
I'm good. So my name is Jesus Morales, real estate investor here in Wilmington. The land bank, I have a bad taste. I'm boots on the ground with everybody else that does develop and flip homes, and the stories are just crazy. It's a lot of corruption. It makes no sense how council members are also part of the land bank. You guys seen all the foolery since it's been created, so there's like a little corruption going on, and everybody knows it. And then I've been speaking to Bud here for the last couple weeks, and he's been communicating very well. But a lot of his staff members have to go, and Ray's one of them. He's a crook, I'm gonna say it. Ray got to go, and a lot of them got to go and be replaced. I got stories on how I was screwed over on land and all kinds of stuff. And I don't want no part to know, or no part to do with the land bank, because I don't trust them. And honestly, I'm a taxpayer, and they wasted my money. They owe me a check. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you. We have Mr. Kevin Smith. Mr. Kevin Smith, are you still online?
Yeah, I just had to try to find the button to unmute.
Okay, thank you.
So, Madam
That happens to me all the
Chairperson,
time.
Members of Council, thank you very much for the opportunity. So I've been a member of the Land Bank Board since its inception, and also the CEO of Habitat for Humanity of Newcastle County. I think there was some conjecture about how Habitat has gotten properties from the land bank, and I want to just take this opportunity to set the record straight. Habitat, when the land bank was formed, Habitat for Humanity had its own inventory. And so we've continued to build down that inventory, as well as continue to buy properties ourselves, not from the land bank, but from other entities to build our new construction. It's only been in the last year and a half that Habitat swapped houses that we owned that had vacant property fees. We have not been exempt from vacant property fees. Houses that we weren't working on, that we gave them to the land bank in exchange for some lots next to lots that we already owned. We also were approached by Neighborhood House. They approached us because we owned property behind them that they wanted to turn into a kindergarten playground. And so we agreed to donate those lots that we had previously paid for lots that the land bank could provide us. So there's a lot of speculation, and I think rightly so, the land bank needs to be as transparent as possible. But just need to set the record straight. Habitat has not needed land bank property to continue its operations. And I think whether you believe it or not, the board is trying to operate with as much integrity as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Ms. Jamila Davy. And we will be moving on to the next agenda item after that. Ms. Jamila Davy.
Hello, everyone. I'm a resident of the 5th District, and I have listened to the conversation tonight, and I wanted to ask that the kinds of questions about transparency and inventory and outcomes of the land bank programs could they also be extended to the greening programs for the side yards and gardens, such that available properties might be made publicly available and that there might be some transparency about who's received those properties and where they are today and what they're being used for. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we are going to the next agenda item. And Mr. Friel, we thank you for being here for the presentation. I know there's a resolution that we're presenting now to request a public hearing by the Wilmington Neighborhood Conservancy Land Bank regarding the acquisition and future development of the Gibraltar property, which we may have touched on, but Councilmember Darby, my vice chair, will proceed with this, and then we can ask any further questions or comments on that.
Yeah.
And if you could mind hanging around just in case we have a question.
Yeah, so this resolution is about best practices for land bank. So I mentioned the Philadelphia Land Bank earlier, but there's also land banks of similar size that also do similar things to the Philadelphia Land Bank and also have more transparency, more accountability from their city council. And the 4 that I have been in contact with that are cities with land banks of similar size is Albany County Land Bank Corporation, which is in New York, McCabe-Bibb County Land Bank Authority, which is in McCabe, Georgia, Youngstown in Ohio, and another one in Michigan. So there are plenty of land banks our size who are doing best practices in regards to how the land bank operates and city council holding the land bank accountable. So the Gibraltar property is a property that was about $900K initially for the agreement. In other cities and land banks, what happened is if that once the sale, lease, a transfer triggers at $500K or more, it then triggers a resolution to their city council. We did not get anything from the land bank or from the mayor administration at the time that there was going to be a transfer from City of Wilmington ownership over to the land bank. Mayor Mike Przicki at the time, ex-mayor Mike Przicki, he decided that he wanted to fix up his backyard and use the land bank to hold the property. Again, I want to talk about the mission of the land bank. That is not the mission of the land bank, to hold property for private issues or private matters for it to be developed. I had a meeting with Bud Friel. Bud Friel told me the land bank has no plans for developing, that's not something that they're going to get into. And then he mentioned that the preservation committee or whatever their name is, and also the ex-mayor Mike Przicki maybe they'll do something about it. I don't know. So the land bank is going to play this game as if they don't know what's going to happen. Let's be very clear what's going to happen. Gibraltar is behind the ex-mayor's house. He wants his backyard to look nice. He did not want city council involved in it. He transferred it over to the land bank. He transferred it over to the land bank because now he knows that he can go anytime to his friend Bud here and then say, hey, it's time for this organization that I'm going to operate with to then develop it to whatever way I want to do it so that they're not held accountable by city council or the community or public to what happens to that. So I need y'all to be very clear on what happened and what is going to happen and what they're saying. This resolution is putting in best practice for the land bank to do the right thing and stop moving unethically. And I also want to point one thing. I'm going to pause for a second. This executive, he is the executive director now, but he did not just get here. So I also want him to disclose that, please explain what his role was before he became the executive director, because he's not like new to this. He's been a part of the land bank in some fashion or way before this as a part-time doing different things. So he's not, it's not like, he's just coming in, he's acquiring something new. He doesn't know what's going on. He knows what's going on and what happened with that initial transaction and why it happened and what's going to happen, but he's going to play the game as if he doesn't know what's going to happen. But it's unethical.
Councilmember Darby, you can make the comments, and I appreciate you making the comments, but let's refrain from personal attacks.
If you want to call it that. It's unethical. The actions of the land bank is unethical. You cannot operate in this way anymore. City council has the power to hold you accountable. 2/3 of us can dissolve it. 2/3 of us can suspend it and ask for you to have reform. 9 of us, so the majority, 7 of us, can pass a resolution or an ordinance to change the code to hold them accountable for their actions. The days are gone where we think that private interest is going to be able to go to our land bank and say, hey, hold this property for me until I figure out what to do with it. Those days are done. So this legislation is asking for the land bank to do the right thing, to go with the best practices of what other land banks do in Philadelphia and other similar sized cities. So this is what this piece of legislation is asking for. And another thing, council has to stop asking the land bank to do something. You can write a piece of legislation and you can get it done, because the land bank is city appointed, city quasi. So we wasted our time asking them to do something and asking them if they can work with us when we can just put up a piece of resolution. So this is about best practices and the land bank doing the right thing and stop participating in unethical behaviors that have nothing to do with the mission of the land bank.
At this point, we will take questions. Councilman Hackett, and then Councilman Field had his hand up first.
So, thank you, Councilmember Cabrera. So, as the 8th District City Council representative, and Gibraltar falls in the 8th District, I just want to just get a couple of facts on the record. There's a lot of issues that are on the table here, but I just want to state several points on Gibraltar because there's a lot of allegations here. So, first of all, it's a 30 or 40-year process of city and state trying to figure out what to do with Gibraltar. There's many attempts before anybody was on this council, but in May of 2021, in the last term, the last mayor had a major proposal for Gibraltar and the redevelopment of surrounding parcels, and it included 18 homes, it included townhomes on Green Hill Avenue, it included the idea of a hotel in the mansion. And from that moment, there was no single issue in the last term that I engaged more on than Gibraltar, and was heavily engaged with the community. And by community, what I mean by that is, in terms when it's a zoning thing, those that live closest to the property and would be most impacted. And that's the same thing for anything related to zoning that comes up in my district. Those are the people that I talk to the most. And there was overwhelming neighborhood opposition to the initial proposal, and it was drastically watered down to what is now a possibility of 1 or 2 homes at 16th and Green Hill Avenue, and the city basically holding the mansion, probably indefinitely, because the economics of it really don't work out, because if you've been inside, it requires a ton of work. And number 3, and this is an important point, in terms of these allegations of some kind of real estate deal that would somehow be sneaked through. Anything, someone said, well, there's a discussion of a restaurant on Green Hill Avenue. Anything at that property would require significant zoning changes. And because of that, the last mayor's original proposal was drastically watered down to 1 or 2 homes. And so anything that would come up in the future would also require significant zoning changes, and that is the neighborhood's opportunity to control the destiny of that property. They have in the past, and they will in the future. And the city council has to vote on it, and the district representative has to sponsor it if something's going to happen. So in this case, nothing will happen there that the community, by and large, does not want. The last mayor, he had a plan for this. There are pros and cons of that plan, but he was the mayor, and he chose to do it that way. I got yelled at at least 10 times by the last mayor for pushing back on his plans on Gibraltar. And you know, those are the facts on Gibraltar. And Councilmember Darby has raised some other issues, sort of 30,000-foot issues, but there's no conspiracy. The neighborhood has had and will continue to have control over what happens there. And you know, if you got a problem with it, bring it up with the last mayor, but he was the mayor. And when you're the chief executive, you do get to make certain decisions, and you take the heat, and people disagree with that, they should run for mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hackett. Councilman Hackett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to say thank you, Bud, and your team for coming. I took a walk with you in that hilltop area down over in 2nd Street. Some great work that you guys are doing. I also just hope that with our council, I just want to make a statement real quick that we also follow the agenda as it's been set. Our first discussion was based on the audit financial report, which we basically stated that at the end of the day, we got to get updated that because I think the years is outdated on that, so that we follow our agenda. But as we do talk about Gibraltar, I just have questions around, we talked about the remaining money that's left. And we talk about, you guys' agenda, what you guys want to do, the great work that you already are doing. And there's some money left over. I heard the lady speak about it's going to take $4 to $5 million to repair the inside, to have anybody to do anything with it. But we got people in our city right now that need housing. Can that money go towards the projects or special projects that you guys are going to do in the future instead of letting it sit here for another 10 or 20 years? We need to help these families right now. So that's like my thing right now. We got some money that's sitting there. How can we use that? Because at the end of the day, you guys are doing the great work. Y'all are partnering with Woodlawn and some of the minority developers. Let's get more minority developers and help build them up with that money.
Can I comment or?
Yes, you may.
Yeah, just briefly, I understand what you're saying, but we don't have the control to just turn the money back to some other group. It's all directed through your director, through your Department of Real Estate and Housing. We've signed an agreement each time we get the money, and once again, they control the construction that takes place, and they require us to pay the invoices. We don't even determine what work is going to be done. So the amount I gave you that's in the balance, you're going to have to go to the administration and discuss that with it. I don't get to make that decision.
Well, I guess for me, the only thing that I possibly don't understand, though, you guys own the property. So if you guys own they're just a holder.
They're just a
The land bank.
Okay.
No, you're right, though.
They went against their mission.
Excuse me, folks, please, point of order, one person at a time. Right
But
now,
technically-
Councilman,
The whole term land bank
Yes.
is exactly what it means. It means you
the
bank
public.
properties in the organization, not just here, anywhere.
No, I'm
with
just
the
saying
land
it's in
bank.
your bank, though.
Huh?
It's in your bank right now.
It is in we're holding it right now.
And you guys
Yes.
are making decisions based on it?
No.
No, sir, we
No
don't.
decisions.
I'm gonna, I'll make sure, I think Councilmember Darby got it, but I'll make sure you get the agreement that gets signed.
Okay.
Before we get any money. And
Okay.
it clearly, it just basically, we're gonna pay these bills for the construction.
I guess I'm just like that misconception of you holding that property but not making the decisions on them. For me, also, this money is going into, this is taxpayer dollars here.
Nope, I don't disagree with you, yep.
We're trying to figure
Don't
out
disagree with you,
now how can we use this money. So
Yeah.
just my thought.
Yeah.
thank you. Mr. Owen, Councilman Owen?
Thank you. First off, thank you, Councilman Field, for your comments. I, too, also was yelled at by the mayor quite often. Got called the mob and the agitator quite a lot. And you also raised a very good point to the young lady who spoke here tonight as well, too. And to your point as well, too, the city should have never purchased this. This was a horrible financial deal that is going to cost us even more money. But I will say this. You brought up a point about for zoning, you talk to the people closest to the property, but it is not just them who are putting their taxpayer dollars into this. This is people over Northside are paying into the money that goes to this. So this is why it's so concerning to everyone because, like Councilman Hackett said, there are people who are sleeping on the streets right now. There are people who are being priced out of their homes right now because in this city right now, rent has skyrocketed. We as a city could be directing these city dollars, these taxpayer dollars, these current residents' dollars to be helping their neighbors, not helping a private entity try to acquire this later on. And I think that's where my frustration keeps coming from with this. We literally have people, and I'm sure y'all all get the same emails I do. We have seniors who can't fix their roofs. We have seniors who haven't had heat all winter long in one of the coldest winters ever. But yet we can keep giving taxpayer dollars to this property. And when it comes to the transparency side of things, we have sat here and listened to people say it's not a transparent process. It's not a transparent process. We have issues with it. And the only people who have been able to come up here and say, yes, it is, it works are people who are on the board or people who have benefited from getting properties from there. And if you don't see anything wrong with that, that is a issue. Over $7 million of taxpayers' dollars from the state and from the city has gone into our land bank this last year. And to say, oh, well, we don't have to update y'all because, you know, we had some back end issues is not right.
It's not okay.
I'm sorry, $7 million? But yet, if a small nonprofit in the city of Wilmington who's doing direct services that are helping families right now, if they don't have their every I dotted, every T crossed, they don't get any money from this city. This past mayor was a failure when it comes to this. Not everything has to be about a bottom line. I put my hand on the Bible when I was sworn in, and my job is to answer to the residents of Wilmington and to be a good steward of their taxpayer dollars. The comment that was made earlier, oh, well, there's multiple members of council who are on the Land Bank's board. Why are y'all asking these questions? We're asking these questions because the members who are on that board have not provided it to us either. It is an issue. We literally are facing a crisis in this city right now when it comes to affordable housing. But yet, time and time again, Gibraltar has been burning up. Literally, I've heard about it for years. But because of inaction 20, 30 years ago by people who were in power, we now have to tax our residents. When we're going to go back, we're going to say, oh, well, you're going to have to pay more as residents as well, too. Oh, the city has no money. The city has no money, but you have money for projects like this? With no oversight, no accountability, no transparency? We have to do better. And I just ask my council colleagues, take a moment, put all the personal stuff aside. Let's do something right for our community, for all of the community. Thank you.
Council Member Darby?
Yeah,
we're open to the public in a moment after the council members ask their questions.
Yes, no, I just want to, a lot of my council colleagues are saying things, but I think the point is what I'm making. We have a land bank created by city council. It's a city quasi-government. It's supposed to be held accountable. There's supposed to be checks and balances. We had a process with Gibraltar where there were no checks and balances. Holding a property for a private issue and then to say, it's out my hands and we don't make any decisions about it, that is not the mission or purpose of a land bank. The purpose of the land bank, if I'm talking, please don't say anything. That's rude. Okay. So the mission of the land bank is for the public. It is not to hold a property and say we make no decisions for it. We're just holding it. That is not, and then to have no what is going to happen with it. That is unacceptable. It is unethical, and they have to be held accountable. And the days are over where the land bank think they're the Habitat for Humanity or think there's some other nonprofit who can do whatever they want. You have to have checks and balances. You have to be held accountable for your actions. That is the purpose of this legislation, is to be in best practices, following what other land banks, and I named some that are of population size of the city of Wilmington who are doing this exact thing, that you cannot do that again. Y'all have it gone off like a child who didn't have any rearing, and now we're trying to bring you back in. Okay? You have to be held accountable. And those days are over with the land bank thinking that they're their own separate entity. It's over. It's done.
Councilman Hackett, you're next. I do want to make the comment that all the land bank meetings are open to the public. You can join in via Zoom or you can show up in person. Councilman
Where's that
Hackett,
link found? There's no link. Where's that
There's
link?
no ever a link.
Councilman, we do have
Point of order. There was a reference made. Where is that link located for the public?
Mr. Friel, is the link available online when we have our meetings? Do you know? I mean, and that's the other thing. Mr. Field just got hired as the executive director. His previous job was a consultant, so he is not part of the board, nor did he have that information.
Madam Chair, point of order, you are a part of the board, so can you please provide where that Zoom link is located?
Should be on the website where it
I'll
lists
make
the
sure
time of
it's
the meeting.
provided.
It's not.
Yeah, I don't-
It hasn't been.
Okay. So then we know that it's going to be provided if it hasn't been. Councilman Hackett.
Just thank you, Madam Chair. I think Bud Frill was pretty clear on saying that the website needed to be updated and cleared and, up to date on every speed. While we're in these committee meetings, we're here to talk about how we can get things done and how we can figure things out. We both made it pretty much clear that there's some things that need to be fixed on both ends here. And, just sitting across, Mr. Fields, I want to see, is there a possibility where we can get to the bottom of this and we can get some reform and sit down and fix this? Because that's what we need to do for our residents. And I think you stated it several times, like, we need to fix the back end stuff. We're here talking about the back end stuff, So I think that's just the overlining of everything that we're talking about today. Like, we got to sit down and we got to fix this. Kobe made a great point. I'm be honest with you, I'm a new council member, but at the same time, what they're saying it today, there's been council members that sit on the board and that information that we're asking for hasn't been provided. So now we're asking the same information and we're seeing that the back end, the filing, the financial, what's really going on, the minority stuff, the stuff that's important to the community. Because as you may know, there's a lot of developers that are minority that are coming to every council member and saying, hey, listen, we can't get in touch with nobody. We can't even, it's gatekeeping. But we do see all these nonprofit, we do see all these other organizations developing on the east side in regards to the land bank. So we're here sitting as a council saying, hey, listen, moving forward, we got to sit down and we got to revamp what the land bank looks like. And you're new to the position, and I think you totally understand, where we're at. So.
Believe it or not, I sat in those seats at one time.
Yeah.
So I
know,
exactly
yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying, and all I can commit to you, and I have been around for a long time, housing has been a major focus of mine for a long time, is that we are going to get these websites fixed up. You're going to have the information on there, and you're going to have it for yourself to access also. I do want to make one point to Mr. Owens, if I can. We have raised some money over the last couple of years. You mentioned $7 million. As a city, I'm not sure you can invest in anything more important than housing. You mentioned in another part of your statement about affordable housing. Absolutely. That's what we're trying to do at the Land Bank, is create affordable housing. When you have safe, secure housing, whether you're a homeowner or whether you're making sure that landlords are keeping their housing up, it helps education outcomes, it helps health outcomes, the quality of life in the community is better. So I think housing is probably the most important thing you can invest in as a government. And that's the only reason I continue to participate with the Land Bank and participate in these communities, because I just think that is the way to go. If you want to revitalize a community, all right? For years we used to hear, well, put more police in the community and let them take care of things. Well, that's not how you revitalize a community. You revitalize it by investing in the housing stock. And that's what we're trying to do. And at the same time, in our little niche, create home ownership opportunities for folks out there trying to buy their first home. So that's what we're trying to do. I just want you to be aware of it.
He asked you a question, but I still think I
Well,
can
we
follow.
were going to public comment, but very quickly, Councilman, because we have people here in the room and then we have someone online.
Well, just so, and I'm just making statements here, and just listening to our conversations. We both talked about how different states have had the same problem with their communication and their transparency. Like, that part right there has to be fixed, because at the end of the day, you guys are saying that you are doing the work, but we don't see it.
I hear you. No.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the part that's missing here. You guys are doing this amazing work. I took the walk, but like, if you don't take the walk with you, how can somebody see the work that, like, if I need to look through your financials, I need to look at everything else, how can I see that? Like, we as a council need to be able to see that, because we got to go out and tell the story to our residents. So,
Sir, I hear you.
yeah.
And I don't know what else I can say at this point. I'll be repeating myself, but I hear you.
Councilman Owens?
Yes, I just want to reiterate, I 100% agree with you that housing is the most important thing that we can invest in. And my comment about the $7 million, again, I know y'all brought in more money than that, right? I know y'all have private money as well, too. The $7 million is taxpayer dollars, right? So there is a certain level of transparency that the taxpayers whose money that is, right? Both from the city and the state level. they want to see. Like what was stated, the Zoom link is not open to the public because it cannot be found anywhere for any of these meetings. If you go on your website, I'm on it right now, the last annual report is from 2022. And I'm committed to working with you to help get this out because I want to see the land bank be the best land bank in the nation. I want stories written about our land bank saying that we are the gold standard out there. I want people to be able to own or to be able to buy in the neighborhoods and city that they live in, right? And that's a whole process. What I said was not all directed towards the land bank. It was directed towards the system that is failing this city right now and bleeding money out. But it can be better, and I'm committed. I can't speak for anyone else other than myself. I'm committed to working with y'all to get to a better process, and whether that's through legislation or reforms with the board, I'm here to work with y'all. But the current route that is going on is not working.
Just briefly, once again, I don't disagree with what you folks are saying. I strongly believe in the land bank, and I think it can play a very important role in the city, and I think it has played an important role. The only reason I took this position, to be honest with you, is because I do agree with you. And I felt the only way that I could get us on a right track when it comes to some of this organizational stuff was to take the leadership position. And day one, I had a to-do list which dealt with financials, an inventory list, and disposition list. I've been there for about 6 weeks. I haven't been able to get everything done yet, but we are moving in the right direction, I think. And I think I'm going to be able to report back to you in a couple of months that a lot of this stuff has been updated. It's on the website. You'll be able to see it. And hopefully be moving forward in a more positive way, at least for the public perception. That's about all I can say.
I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Councilman Johnson online, and then Councilmember Harley.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to kind of wait to the end and again soak it all in, as I have in-depth knowledge, having worked with the land bank even before Bud came on to the land bank, and similar to I think what all my colleagues have said, obviously communication can improve, but I think we have to look at the big picture, right, as a city. And this can't be a government body that does this. Real estate and housing does not have the bandwidth or capacity or expertise to move these properties from offline to online. And so the value is there, just how we figure out how to get it in community. So I think everyone, and for me, as sitting as a board member who's served on the board for 4 years, it is the communication, because I can tell you, it was difficult for me to even get to meetings because as people know, we work jobs, full-time jobs. And so, the meetings would either be in the morning, sometimes it'd be midday or at lunchtime. I couldn't necessarily get there. And most of the community can't get there to the meetings. So they should, again, be in the evening, be at an accessible time, be there so the community can engage in a meeting. And then I know they've obviously worked on a newsletter, some of those other issues Bud has talked about. But it really, I think, big picture, it's not perfect, but it's moved the city in the right direction, because nobody can say, where we are 8 years ago, we're light years ahead now. And so I know Councilwoman Harley now serves on the board, but this is something where, all of us, again, can engage in it, even if you don't serve on the board, and they really do a lot. So I really want to kind of just, from a high level perspective, talk about processes, how they're going to improve. I think the new leadership, with Bud, I think will serve a lot. Frankly, he's going to need a number two. He's going to need a Robin, to be to his Batman. He's going to need some people to step in, because that's been a problem as well in the past, as I know Chairwoman has talked about staffing there. So I think with the right team, maybe if he gets someone who's young, dynamic, content manager maybe there's a lot of things they can do to get involved in community, and so people know about what's going on, and we can get those young companies and investors involved. So I look forward to seeing the future, and I know I'm going to continue to be engaged with them, even though I don't formally sit on the board, and I know Woman Harley will as well, and we're going to see this succeed, because we can't afford to fail with this.
Thank you. We have Councilmember Harley and then the public, and I do want to remind you that We are speaking to the resolution requesting a public hearing by the Wilmington Neighborhood Conservancy Land Bank in reference to the Gibraltar property. So we got to keep the comments to that. And Councilmember Harley, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Real quick, it has been a lot said, and as a voting member now on the board, I am committed to being there and being more engaged. But as Councilmember Johnson just mentioned, it's not just for the council members that are voting members. I want to encourage all the council members, especially those that have concerns as it relates to what's going on with the land bank. Please join the calls, and I will make sure myself, Council Member Cabrera, we will make sure that our council members have the link so you can be engaged. And in the meantime, as it relates to the resolution, I think best practices are always good. Having the best practice, I think, will be a win-win for the land bank as it relates to the community as well as the council members. But in the meantime, I just ask if we can have a quarterly update at this meeting from the land bank. If we had a quarterly update, I think that would help not only the council members that are able to participate or be a part of the meetings, but it will also help the community to stay updated as well. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Harley. At this time, we are open to the public. If anyone would like to make public comment, it has to be in reference to the Gibraltar, and you have 3 minutes. Please come forward. Introduce yourself.
My name is Fred Geraldo, and I'm the president of the Greenhouse Place Homeowners Association, which is directly across from Gibraltar.
Thank you for being here.
I'm also a former officer of the Georgia Pacific Corporation, retired. I must say that I agree with Councilman Field's statements that what's been done to date at Gibraltar is done. You can't undo it. How it was done is one thing. How things have proceeded are positive for the neighborhood. It is protected and governed by a conservation easement. So it can't be sold. It can't be developed. None of those things can happen. And importantly, it's stabilized and not in a position that it was for 32 years, and that's as long as I've lived across from it. The only thing I would recommend that council keeps their eye out for, that there's no transfer of that property over to PDI, which is Preservation Delaware, who used to own it and gave it up, and any kind of foundation that's formed as a result of some sort of collaboration by the former mayor and the chair of PDI, who sits on the Newcastle County Council, which may very well be a conflict of interest. And I leave it at that, but we are very, very happy in the neighborhood that something has been done to an eyesore that has existed for 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any?
I just have a question.
Could you come up real quick?
I'm old, it's hard to
Sorry. Maria Elena, anybody online? Or no? Okay, all right, good. So this is the last
my
one.
question is there an executive board and a regular board of the land bank? Do any of the city council people sit on the executive board?
No, there's one board, and there's 3 members of city council by.
Right. So when the vote came down about Gibraltar, the FOIA document I got said that you convened the executive committee to make that vote, and I didn't see any of the council name on that. So are none of you on the executive committee of this board? That's my question.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so at this time, this resolution does not need to be voted out. It will be before city council. Would that be in the April meeting?
Yes, so we can go with that to the April meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for participating today in this meeting. I know it was lengthy, but hopefully we answer a lot of questions. And any more questions and follow-up the city council has, we do entertain that we get together and meet with the members of the Land Bank to further ask those questions. Before we adjourn, I have the council president would like to make a comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did want to wait until we finish discussing about the resolution. I think at this point, we are past having hopes and dreams and expectations of the Land Bank. I think they have proven to us, I think they have proven to the community that a lot of us represent that they haven't done right by a lot of people in the community. And that's why I requested to have this meeting, just so people from the community who have been in council chambers and the committee chambers, people who have been online, can kind of voice their frustrations. I think that Councilwoman Darby, when she first spoke about the power that council has, I think it's time to us to really look at the Land Bank and see if we really do need to dissolve it and start fresh. Because I don't think that a light is going to click and all of a sudden they're going to start doing right by the community. I appreciate the will that the new director and the initiation that he has, but that the people that have been a part of the Land Bank are the same people. They're just kind of switching positions, and it's just they've never done right. And I'm on the Land Bank board, and I have thought about resigning because I didn't want to be associated with the shadiness, but I didn't. But we just can't keep on hoping that they're going to do better, because I just don't think that it's ever going to happen. I think the people who control the Land Bank don't have the same aspirations of a lot of us on council. So for us to think that something is going to change, I think we're just fooling ourselves and we're wasting time. I think we'll still be in the same position the next time we meet. And I think that those council members who really want change to happen really need to think about starting fresh. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
It has been properly first and second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
Okay.